All right, guys, what is up? Welcome back in another episode of GC Live, Monday episode. Honestly, Monday episodes, some of my favorite episodes, because typically, Chris, in a few weeks, we'll be talking about a game that just happened. And, I think this one, we didn't get to watch a scrimmage, but we did get some intel from a scrimmage that we're going to react to. Unfortunately, some injury news as well that we will get to. But first, let's tell everybody about our guy, Clint Hammond, CMG Home Loans, ClintHammond.com, 803-422-6797, NMLS number 71597. Like we always tell you, if you are in the market for a home or if future home ownership sounds like something that you are interested in, that you're planning for, go ahead, hit Clint up. You can call him, you can text him. He'll sit down with you, talk about your financial situation, how much home, you maybe can afford, how much wiggle room you may have, and let you know what you'd be looking for in terms of a monthly payment and how much you would need to save for a down payment. Again, ClintHammond.com, 803-422-6797.
And we'll also tell you about our friends over at Ferry Chevrolet. That's ferrychevrolet.com, F-A-I-R-E-Y, Chevrolet, ferrychevrolet.com, or you can give them a call, 803-937-4531. Located in Orangeburg, so convenient to Columbia or Charleston. But you can check out their website first for a look at their new and used vehicle inventory, their financing options. You can get in touch with them directly for the website. If you're in the market for a new or used vehicle or think, hey, should I be? Car's getting old, don't like my car, need to start thinking about it, seeing what's out there. Just make sure that they're your first call or your first website visit at ferrychevrolet.com. Since 1926, still run by fourth-generation dealer Joseph Ferry. That's ferrychevrolet.com. Appreciate them being part of the show here.
All right, guys, let's dive right into it. I was telling Chris, I don't know if you guys wear contacts. I do. Mine are completely fogged up right now. I can't see anything on the chat. So Chris is going to take over my normal mentioning chat comments and pulling them up duties, because I y'all may be telling me how much you hate me, and I have no idea right now. So whoever you are out there in the chat right now, great to not see you, but hope everybody is doing well. And
Mac and Dino says, let me see, Wes Mitchell is the greatest. No, it actually doesn't say that, but I do think they like you.
What are they saying?
It actually says, Mac and Dino says, I'm never excited for the first scrimmages because injuries are inevitable. I mean, good point. It's football, guys. Like, I've seen very fringe, but I've seen some people cursed, we're the only program in the world that has injuries. No. Pay attention. Past week or so, Alabama has had some injuries. Tennessee lost a starting safety for the entire year. Clemson lost a freshman safety that we covered in high school, West, Polo Anderson, who's going to play a lot for them. He's out. You get injuries. You hate to hear about them, right? You don't want them. They stink. But football is a violent sport. It's a violent game. You have to practice. You can't put the guys in bubble wrap and roll them out there during practice. Sometimes you have non-contact injuries in football. Those happen, and it's part of the game. And so hate it for Jayden Gibson, hate it for Jaden Sellers, hate it for this team. Jaden Sellers was going to play a lot this year. There's zero doubt about it. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But, yeah, definitely some tough news coming out of the scrimmage.
I mean, it is probably my least favorite thing about football, honestly. My least favorite thing about sports is that you are going to have injuries, and football, such a just physical game, and these things are going to happen. But doesn't mean that it stinks any less for these guys who have busted their tails, trying to get in a position to make an impact. We talk about it all the time, Chris. It's such a year-round sport that to have that taken away, man, it is tough physically, but it's tough mentally as well. So certainly going to send well wishes to Jaden Sellers and Jayden Gibson. From a football standpoint, yeah, it stinks too. Like, this is someone, especially with Jaden Sellers, who was projected to play a big role on your team. How big, I think, was going to be determined by, to an extent, Chris, the next few weeks. As we talked about it actually on Friday, that Mazeo Bennett and Jaden Sellers were kind of fighting for that starting slot role. And so, I think that probably makes Mazio a fairly safe projection now as your starting slot receiver. That's a position where we've talked about it. There's a lot of roles that are up for grabs. There's a lot of competition in that room. And so, you are, I thought JC made a good point. I was on with he and Mike Morgan earlier today. And, as much as we do talk about the talent in that receiver room, losing Jayden Sellers, you are losing a guy who, the latter part of last year was very productive. Like he got things done and, has proven it at the major college football level. So it's not a loss. It is a loss. It's somebody you were going to be counting on. But I also think realistically, it's a position where now Mazio Bennett, he's getting his shot. And, he was going to get a shot anyway, but it sort of solidifies that. I think you got to look at these receiver spots too. I've seen some takes out there too, man, on social media where, people are slotting like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. It doesn't really necessarily work like that. And, I think there's still a huge battle. Anybody beyond Nick Harbor, and now I would say Mazio in the slot, if you're just saying, this guy, that guy, I think you're getting ahead of yourself on that. But right now, I think Mazio, your starter, Sequel Patterson probably slides potentially into a backup role there in the slot and maybe speeds up his path towards playing time. And but you just got to remember, like you kind of have your outside receivers, your X's and your Z's. There's a little bit of maybe interchangeability in that, but then your slot guys are your smaller, quicker, underneath route a lot of time, make you miss, run after the catch type guys. So it's not the same position, even if it is the same position room.
Yeah, and I think before this, there was a lot of or wasn't much clarity on like who are going to be the other two guys. I mean, heading into the scrimmage on Saturday, Wes, after Friday's practice, I mean, I'd heard, hey, it is very much up in the air. Like, who wins those other two spots? Who pushes into that top, 6? Because again, like the 3 guys who start will play the most. The other guys that are kind of behind them or adjacent to them are also going to play. You think about the dynamic between a healthy Jayden Sellers and Mazio Bennett, everything we heard is, hey, they're both going to play a good bit. Somebody's going to start, somebody's not, but they're both probably going to play a good bit. But there were, 6 to 8 guys kind of vying for those other 2 spots on the field, and that created a lot of very healthy competition. So it gives you the type of clarity at the slot that, like, it gives you clarity, but the type you don't want, because you want Jayden Sellers to be healthy and a part of this program. He made a lot of plays in the back half of last year, as we mentioned. He's got a great chemistry and rapport with his brother, Lenoris Sellers. But Mazio Bennett's had a really good, really, I think all year, Wes. Winter workout, spring, summer, like preseason, just consistently heard that. So there is still some depth in this room to where I think you can survive that a little bit better. But you also have to have that nuanced conversation that, like, yeah, I mean, this is a loss. This is a guy that makes plays, made plays for you as a true freshman, and I think was going to make plays this year and only get better.
Yeah, so the other spot out there, Chris, the outside role opposite of Nick Harbor, I think you very much still have DJ Black, you have Donovan Murph, you have Nitro Tuggle, all kind of fighting it out for playing time there, I think. And all those guys will play, and I think whoever doesn't like win that job, one of them will be the backup there. The other one maybe slides over and is like the backup to Nick, I think is maybe how you can do it. And we don't even have the exact details on how they're splitting that, like who is an X, who is a Z, who is kind of interchangeable that can play both sides. How interchangeable are the 2 positions in the scheme itself, is something that I think maybe affects that. But I just kind of categorize them as outside receivers. And I think all those guys are firmly in the mix, firmly battling. It's going to be really probably determined over the next few weeks, man, who gets the first reps out there. And then once you're out there, it's going to be about, do you perform? Do you get open? Do you catch the football with those opportunities? And what does Kendall Briles value? Those are different receiver types. Like all three of the guys we're talking about have a little bit different skill set. And so that could maybe be a factor in that as well. So I think that's just something. There's not an answer yet. I know everybody wants answers. There's just not an answer. It's going to be more about who performs and plays the best in practice coming up.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of competition there, and the interesting thing about this room is, again, Nick Harbor, like surefire starter, right? But some of the other guys, or really most of the others, it kind of has gone back and forth, depending on, like, when Sellers was still in the mix, Jayden Sellers, that is, you could ask at a different point since January, who's going to start in the slot? Who is it going to be? And you could get different answers at different points. Even if you look at some guys, Wes, like Nitro Tuggle transferred here, or a Malik Clark, or a Lex Cyrus, or a Jordan Gidron, some guys that are trying to push up into Donovan Murph, right? DJ Black. Like, you'll hear different things at different points. Hey, DJ Black had a really good day. And I'm sure as we get more into the scrimmage on Saturday, he in fact did have a really good day to DJ Black. You'll hear anecdotes about, hey, this guy had a really good week of practice, a really good individual practice. One of the things about Nitro Tuggle, who I mentioned, finished the spring, I think, as I recall, like really strong. Preseason camp, maybe you hear a little bit more about some of the other guys, like a DJ Black. So I think that just speaks to a couple of things. Number one, there is a good bit of competition there. And number two, when Mike Furry's figuring out this rotation, who's going to start, who's in the rotation, he's looking for the guys that he can trust the most. If one guy is a little bit better athletically, can make, has shown a penchant for making bigger plays, but has been a little more inconsistent in practice, what is he going to value more? A lot of times, you brought this point up the other day, Wes, like coaches value consistency and trust, and being able to roll guys out there that they can trust, even if they're losing maybe a little bit of like athletic upside, right? So that'll be a balancing act as they go through all this. But that room, even with two guys now out of it, there's still a lot of guys in the mix for playing time there. And so next weekend scrimmage and the remaining practices are going to be huge these next few days to kind of tell the story about how this shakes out. And then does it change during the season? You brought up the Delvon Campbell example from 2024, where you hear good things preseason, he's not really around, and then boom, here he is late in the season playing more and making some big plays down the stretch. That's always a possibility too.
Yeah, even when we think we know how a season is going to play out, man, there's always a surprise or two of a guy that just maybe for whatever reason, maybe they're dinged up, maybe they're, maybe something's going on in their life. They maybe don't have as strong of a preseason as we expect. They get on the field, the lights come on, they make a play, and they just, nobody was really talking that much this time last year about Jayden Sellers. And the final half of last year, Jayden Sellers was arguably South Carolina's most consistent receiver when he got his opportunities with the ball in the air. So I think that's something that will kind of just always be up for grabs as a year plays out. So
we got something here from Michael Ray Lynn, regular listener. Appreciate you, Michael. I've listened to every platform today. Still haven't heard much intel from the scrimmage. How did they play in the scrimmage? So we will dive into that. Wes, I do have to, man, Michael, you opened the door, so we're going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'll be the bad guy. We have more than 5 now. As of this morning, we had 5 different pieces on GamecockCentral.com. I've had one. Wes has had one. JC's had one. Jamie Bradford's had one. Somebody had an extra one in there. We've got at least 5
No,
pieces.
you've had 2.
I've had 2. Okay. Laying out what you need to know from the scrimmage. It's not a play-by-play. We don't have access to every single play that happened, but we have a lot of really good info in there. And right now, you can get it for 75% off, limited time for a whole year. So go check that out. A lot of detail. Just go to GamecockCentral.com, join up. You'll probably find what you want. But Wes and I also have some stuff that we're going to discuss from the scrimmage. So shall we do that, Wes?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was about to say, did somebody delete my fall camp cell graphic?
Well, apparently
They
you
did
can't.
not.
I was going to make a joke about you not being able to see, but that's kind of mean. But I mean, you did put up the graphic even with bad contacts, and I didn't. So
Well, I honestly it was a guess. It was like
I think I see
that's
the colors in there. Yeah, I think that's
yeah.
it.
JC, when I was on their show today, had a QR code up the entire time that we were talking. I don't know if it was by design or not, but I was just rolled with it. So
Was it like covering your face?
it was like covering everybody, I think. At least it was on my end. Maybe we'll just talk with this up.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably better to look. I mean, it's a nice graphic. It's probably better to look at than us, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. Such a pretty graphic. But all right, so scrimmage, we'll give you a little bit. There you go. Josh says he's all about it. I can read now.
Oh wow, we've turned around.
My contacts are coming back into focus. But all right, yeah, so offense, I would say kind of set the tone early from what we were told.
Yeah.
Lenora Sellers to DJ Black was kind of singled out, touchdown pass. You know, for those who don't know, like some of these things are legitimate, like scrimmage, like, hey, start the ball at the 20 or 25 or whatever it may be, and then drive down and you either get a stop or a score. Other times it's more situational. And so, you know, there were some early scores by the offense where that were truly like drives. And then there were some early scores by the offense that it was more a goal line scenario where you're saying, hey, put the ball in the 10, put the ball in the 1. I don't know the details. I just know it's a goal line situation. And can you score or not? And very early on, the offense kind of set the tone for this thing. I do think it is worth pointing out, Chris, and it is important as well. The defense did answer back. Like they did punch back. So from everything we have heard from, you know, people who were there, it was kind of a balanced scrimmage. Some really good things from the offense, some really good things from some individuals, especially early on. Good day for Lenoris, good day for Cutter Woods. But I think the defense had enough of it at one point and decided they were going to punch back a little bit.
Well, and isn't that what you want to see? You know, I mean, when one of the things that we always try to do is like when you hear feedback from practice or a preseason scrimmage or a spring scrimmage, you're trying to figure out if you hear, okay, the defense is dominating. Well, number one, especially like early in spring practice, early in camp, it's kind of typical, right, for a defense to be a little bit ahead in many cases. Certainly that's how it's going here. You're trying to figure out, well, is that because the defense is really good? Does the offense stink? Or like, is it a little bit of both? Like you're trying to measure that. One thing that I think we can say pretty confidently, Wes, about the offense is like, if you talk to people who have been at these practices, you'll hear like the offense is moving the ball a lot better in a relative sense than a lot of past practices, particularly when you hear about running the football, particularly when you hear about like the confidence level that Lenora Sellers is operating with in practice. I think he's got confidence back, which is so important for him. You know, you think about how he was playing in 2024. This isn't just a guy who's practiced. Like he's played at a very high level. He's looked like one of the best players in the country in the back half of 2024. Did not look that way last year, and it was pretty clear that confidence is one of those reasons. There's been less penalties, Wes. There's been less, you know, there's been fewer like loafs all across the team is something we've reported. And those are all things that had to get better. Does that equate to South Carolina having an excellent offense this year against the schedule that they have to play? I don't know. I don't know yet. It has to translate. But you'd rather hear those things in practice. And I do think there's also a confidence that, yes, South Carolina is missing Dylan Stewart, right? Yeah. Yes, sometimes in these practice settings, in these scrimmage settings, it's not always going to be, for instance, hey, Justin Okoronkwo and J.R. Johnson are on the field at the same time because you're getting younger guys some run. They played a lot of guys on Saturday. So you do have to kind of have that nuanced conversation. But this is not a South Carolina defense that we're expecting to be, porous going into the season. They're doing this against an SEC defense. And so does it have to translate? Yes. But does it give you some hope that things can turn around, relative to last season? I think it does. And so I think you actually like to hear offense getting the better of the defense at times, but the defense also punching back. That's the kind of competitiveness that you want, I think, on your team in camp.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to forget how difficult this team was to beat when, to TD 628's point here, a confident 16 is a scary 16. It's very easy to forget how difficult Carolina was to beat in the final half of 2024 when Lenoris was right and going. Now, there were some, I would say, really strong defensive performances in there. You don't beat Clemson if the defense doesn't hold them, to 14 points in that game. And that was kind of played out to be a defensive battle. And the offense didn't do a ton, but when they had to, they drove down and won the game. And so, I think, Chris, you have a situation there with Lenoris where, because we are a reactionary sports watching society, you kind of just think about what you saw last year, and that's kind of what you have in your mind when you think of it, especially if you're an outsider, if you're not a South Carolina fan or media person. And if you go back to what we saw in 2024, there is certainly a ton of upside and ability to just change a game here. I was doing a radio hit before we came on, and they were just talking about expectations for this season, man. And I was like, I don't know if there are many other teams in the SEC that have a greater distance in what this season could be, like in terms of the floor or the ceiling for this South Carolina football team. Like what if it's like last year and you lose a bunch of close games and lose a bunch of fourth quarters? Like we saw kind of what the floor was. What if you start flipping some of those close losses into close wins? What if Sellers goes off? What if Kendall Briles is just a difference maker and you're able to really pair for the first time like a legit offense and legit defense together? I also saw a thing from Bill Connolly today on ESPN, Chris. 50% of the SEC football games last year were decided by one score.
Oof.
50% across the league.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Well, think about South Carolina's. I mean, we've given these stats so many times, but like they fit the point that you just made. South Carolina, there were two games where weren't very competitive for South Carolina. It's Vandy, especially after Sellers went out. It's Oklahoma. Other than that, they were all competitive. And yes, I was at the Ole Miss game. It was a pretty close game until later. Ole Miss pulled away, right? I was never sitting there going, I think South Carolina's coming back and winning this game. But they were in range. They were beating Texas A&M, Bama, and Missouri. There's 3 games right there. Now nobody's jumping up and down with a 7-win season, but it's a lot better than 4, right? There are 8 games. Shane Beamer's talked about this stat publicly. 8 games last year, South Carolina doesn't score in the fourth quarter. If you think about just having the offense be, frankly, average in some of those games or average in the fourth quarter or better situationally, it's not some crazy idea that South Carolina just didn't perform as well as they could have, but that's how close the line is, right? When you play in this league, there it is. 50% of the games last year were one-score games. I don't know what it'll be this year, but it's going to be a lot of competitive one-score games. South Carolina's probably going to be in a lot of those games this year. So you got to find a way to go win them.
Yeah, and I would be more surprised if it strayed away from that than I would be surprised if it stayed right around that 50%. Because, if it's a South Carolina thing, then maybe that's a 1-year thing. If it's a league thing, knowing how deep this league appears to be again, like that's a lot of football games. And for it to end up where half of them are that close, I don't know, just doesn't feel to me like that does not feel like an anomaly at all. So we'll see if that keeps it up. But again, not a Gamecock thing. It's an SEC thing from last year that I think also something we talked about quite a bit, Chris, on Friday. I don't want to go 15 minutes down the rabbit hole again, but the kicker position. If you're going to be in all those close games, you're going to have a kicker that goes out there and performs. And, I think one thing we heard in the scrimmage, probably still not a ton, if any, separation among those three guys that are fighting it out. That's a little more like opinion for people who are watching as opposed to like direct information from a staffer. But I think it continues to be a storyline that I'm going to be paying close attention to.
Yeah. And, do we get an answer to that before game one? I say no. And here's why. Again, we won't go down like super long, but I think even if we get some clarity, the week leading up to game one, game week, where, hey, so-and-so looks like the guy. Okay. We'll know like he looks like the guy for game one if that happens, but you got to go out there and actually make him in the game, and we haven't seen anybody do that yet at South Carolina. So definitely a storyline to continue to monitor. Well, should I tell the people about Rytech real quick?
Let's do it.
I think I should. Folks over at Rytech are a proud sponsor of GamecockCentral.com. Our guy Steven running the show over there. And they are your go-to for any of your electrical needs, whether you're a homeowner or a business owner in the Midlands. Over 400 Google reviews that are averaging 4.9 stars. They serve all around the Midlands, Columbia, Lexington, commercial and residential electrical work, whether it's flickering lights, dead outlets, tripping breakers, panel upgrades, whatever it is. Give them a call at 803-303-8274. A real person is going to pick up, and they're going to help you out. Every electrician on the Rytech team is a direct Rytech employee. They don't use subcontractors. You're not going to get a price, and then they send out a crew that you don't know who they work for coming into your home or business. Call Rytech 803-303-8274. They'll tell you the price when they come out before they touch a single wire, and every repair is backed with a 1-year parts and labor guarantee. That's Rytech Electric, 803-303-8274.
Chris, do you have your Poncho Gamecock shirt?
Dude, I do
right now.
Let me pull it out.
Pull out the new Poncho. This is part of their Gamecock Game Day collection, Chris, that they've launched for several programs, including South Carolina. And along with that, man, they got the Natty Back guarantee. So if you were smart enough to go ahead and have bought your shirt, and I need to double check this, man, because it says it actually ended on August 16th. I'm hopeful there's still some room to wiggle on this. We will find out and let you know. If you already bought it, then this is awesome, because if you did buy your Gamecock shirt from Poncho, and the Gamecocks, Lenoris just goes off, and they have the season you've all been dreaming of, and they win the national title, you will not only keep your shirt, but you'll get a full refund on your purchase, which is pretty awesome. Once you buy this shirt, man, you're going to see why it's the ultimate performance shirt for the outdoors and for all seasons. Comfortable, just is going to keep you. You're not going to be too hot or too cold in it, which I think is awesome. And we also have a code for you, which is always cool. We want to pass some savings along to you. PonchoOutdoors.com/Gamecock Central. Enter your email on there. You get $10 off and free shipping. Nobody likes to pay shipping, man. Free shipping with that code. That's PONCHO outdoors.com/Gamecock Central. Head there, drop in your email, get $10 off and free shipping. Once you try one, you'll have a closet full because you're just going to buy a bunch more of it. So shout out to our friends over there at Poncho, Chris.
Great looking shirt, great feeling shirt. So check it out.
Are we doing ATSCO today? Or are we good?
Yeah, let's tell everybody about ATSCO. We can definitely do that. ATSCO, ATSKO.com. That's where you need to go to learn more about them. One of our proud partners here at GamecockCentral.com and on GC Live. If you're an outdoorsman, you got to check out ATSCO. Hunting, waterproofing, products for your pets, even, and personal care products. If you're an outdoorsman, they've got the Zero brand line for you, UV control, specialized laundry care and odor control, and a variety of outdoor gear. They've been around since 1933. Waterproof footwear, clothing, outdoor gear. So if you're a camper, if you're a hunter, go check out Atsko at atsko.com, and you can see the products that they have. They'll ship them to you. Got flat rate shipping and a variety of products if you are an outdoorsman or if you're looking for a gift. Great place to go, atsko.com, for that outdoorsman or hunter in your life. Check them out today at atsko.com.
All right, man, let's dive into a few more little tidbits from the scrimmage. We mentioned Mazio. We heard had a good day. Quarterbacks had a good day. DJ Black scored an early touchdown, again, battling for a starting role there with Donovan Murph and Nitro Tuggle at the kind of outside wide receiver spots. Chris, what did you make from what we heard about O-line play? This is such a touchy subject for people right now, and I really don't want to get clipped saying the O-line's going to be better. It's 100% going to be better. There have been some positive signs there. I think there were some positive signs in the fact that, I heard Christian Clark had a day on Saturday. The run game had some room to operate. The quarterbacks, Lenoris and Cutter aren't going to be able to play well, as we heard they did, without some room to throw, right? Without some room to go operate. So that, I think, is a pretty good sign. You are playing in a little bit more of a spread, potentially up-tempo type offense. That maybe helps. What is your takeaway on what we've heard so far about this O-line?
Yeah, man, it is a touchy subject and a hard to figure out subject because, is there an element of go out and prove it? Yes. I think like everybody is there, including me. I think you and I are on the same page with this. Like, you do have to go out there and prove it. Now, we know that South Carolina, the strength of this team is thought to be up front defensively, especially at defensive tackle. We know there's no Dylan Stewart this preseason, but they've got some guys up front. They've got some guys that have played football. They've got some guys that have played at a high level. They've got talent. And, when you have success on offense, we've all talked about the inverse of that. Like, if you're not having success, you're probably not playing very well up front for the most part. If you're having success, you have to be doing enough in order to accomplish that. This is a room that's really completely different. One guy from last year's team, unless Nolan Hay comes out and wins the center job, and he's still in a battle with Carter Miller, one guy who played a lot last year and Shed Surratt is back. The rest, new faces, transfers. Darius Gray is a freshman. I think this group has a different mentality. I think it's a group that physically looks better than the groups that we've seen, if you compare it to last year in particular. And that does matter, and the scheme matters and the coaching, all those factors matter. And so it is hard to figure out how is this going to translate what we've heard. But do you hear some positive things about the O-line? Yes. And I'll go back to when we've heard about how the offense has been producing in practice. Those things do work hand in hand. So I'm tempted to, buy into the fact that this group could be better. It's going to have a chance to be better. But I'm also in the camp of you do have to go out there and prove it, because we've seen this enough to where you're going to want to see the product on the field.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to the defensive side, man. Some standouts we heard about. Certainly not a comprehensive list, just some guys that were kind of singled out to us. Julian Walker continues apparently to make plays at the edge position. No surprise, but worth noting. Sounds like a bunch of the defensive backs had a good day. Judge Collier, there's been some positive buzz about him this spring in terms of just being in a great spot physically, mentally, all those things to have a big year for Carolina. So Judge, Vakari, Quashid Scott at the nickelback spot where he continues to battle Gerald Kilgore. Chris, I really think the more I hear, I think that's going to be like a just true rotation there. Like I've said that for a while, but as I've said that, I was kind of, you and I had, would it be Q Scott first? Would it be Gerald Kilgore first? It's kind of Maybe depending on the day, maybe one of us has been right, maybe the other's been right on a different day. Maybe we're both right, man. Like maybe that's a true co-starter situation. Like defensive tackle in 2024, linebacker in 2024 and 2025. It has not mattered who went out there first. It really was kind of an even split, or depending on the day, maybe a guy is just playing well and they say, hey, we're going to ride this hot hand, so to speak. But for the most part, you would just call them co-starters. Like nobody is, the starter, so to speak. Jalen Kilgore was the starter at nickelback.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if Gerald and Q Scott are going to just kind of be co-starters. The longer this goes, the more I just wouldn't be surprised if we just see a ton of both those guys, man.
And maybe it gives you the ability to play matchups a little more. Like one thing we've heard about Quashid Scott is really like physical player, likes to hit people, can play the run. Does that allow you to match up a little bit more situationally? Maybe so. And those guys have some positional versatility too. Like Kilgore can play some safety. Scott, I think, could play not that I'm sitting here putting him in the, hey, who's the third corner conversation, but like he can play corner if needed. I think the third corner conversation goes more to a DeMarcus Leach or a Cassie Barnes as a true freshman, Leach being a sophomore. But yeah, I think it's one of those positions that kind of day by day you can think, hey, today maybe it's Kilgore, today maybe it's Scott. Those guys have both had days where they've had really good practices, but I did think it was noteworthy that Scott was one of the guys that apparently flashed during the scrimmage. And I think that's a positive sign, because you want to keep that competition pretty healthy there too. And maybe that's exactly how it turns out. Like you said, maybe we see a lot of both of them.
If you told me before camp, or if you asked me before camp, who is the third corner, I would have probably without much hesitation have said DeMarcus Leach. And I would have been, I think, fairly confident in that. Do you think that's a little more maybe up for grabs with he and Cassie than maybe we anticipated?
I do. I definitely get that vibe. Cassie, came in this spring. It super well put together kid. So physically, you don't look at him and go, oh, he has a ways to go physically. Like he looks like a guy who should be playing. Of course, he's a freshman, a true freshman. And so really good high school player, highly regarded player, really nice recruiting get. So it's just about getting him ready to play. And we know that Torian Gray won't hesitate if he has a guy. DeMarcus Leach, the other guy we've been talking about, certainly did not expect him out there game one against Virginia Tech last year, playing a brand new position. But that is exactly what happened. So that is one. There are several spots on this team, whether it's who's the fourth linebacker, who's the third corner, who's the kicker, who's the nickel, where we're still going through it saying, who is it going to be? And there's really not an answer yet. And so some of that, I think, speaks to competition, or you're waiting on somebody to step up and assert themselves as the guy. But that's one, I'm with you, maybe a little bit more open-ended even than it was to open camp.
Do you think we're going to be out there having somebody video the pregame to see who the starters are game one and see what the 2 deep is?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
What intern will get that duty this time?
We're taking applications from the interns.
There you go.
We'll send out a note and ask them who wants this duty. It's an important duty and a fun one.
It is a very important duty. We did that because you remember we did not get a 2 deep. We did not get a mythical depth chart from the football program game one last year, like pregame game one. We got it after game one.
Yes, we did.
So it was somebody's job to be out there videoing pregame, because that is a true depth chart. Who's out there with the ones in the pregame walkthrough? Who's out there with the twos?
Yes.
It's the depth chart for that day, for those 3.5 hours. That is the depth chart.
Or at least pregame. It's the depth chart.
Yes, for sure. All right, Chris has got a hard out at 3, so we're going to let him get out of here. And I'm going to hop off too, because y'all don't want to see me talk to myself. So we'll have, I'm sure, Jack and Kendall on maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. Haven't heard for sure. And then maybe Chris and I'll be back on later this week. But hopefully y'all got a little bit out of that 40 minutes there. And man, if you're not on Gamecock Central, we'd love to have you come on over GamecockCentral.com. New subscribers get 75% off for a limited time. He is Chris. I am Wes, and we'll see y'all soon. Have a good